So we've now seen how we can pass props from one component to another, or from a parent component to a child component, and is the core data passing mechanism in React. Now, right now we're just rendering the title of the playlist, but we can do all kinds of really cool things with props. A good example here is if we take this app component, and right now we're passing the whole playlist, which contains the name of the playlist and the songs for that playlist, to our playlist component. So here's a really cool thing we can do. Because songs is an array of songs, we could extract each song and then give it its own HTML, but there's a better way to do it. We're going to create a list here, and we're going to give it a class name equals tracks. And then we're going to take the props object, we're going to get the playlist off of it, and then we're going to get the songs, and we're going to map over them. Now, if you're not familiar with map is a function in JavaScript that loops over each song or track or whatever we call it here. So I'm going to say props.playlist.songs.map. It loops over all of those songs and it returns an array. So we can use that here. We can loop over, we can iterate over the songs array by mapping over each song, grabbing the song and the index in the array. And then I'm going to use a fat arrow function, and I'm just going to use parentheses here, and we're going to render another component here. So I'm just going to say something like div class name equals track, and then I'm just going to put the song dot, what do we call it, song name, like that. Now I'm going to save this and let's see what happens. Amazing. So it is now rendering a list of songs here. A Whole New World, Let It Go, Circle of Life, How Far I'll Go, I'll Make a Man Out of You, Bare Necessities. So what's happened here is it's taken this songs array, it's mapped over them, it's looped over each one, and it's rendered the song name for each item in the array. Now this is a lot less code than what it would take for us to do that individually in each item, for each item in HTML. And this is one of the benefits to React, is that we can write performant code that is a lot shorter and handles everything in a very clear and consistent way. And this is the power of components. And to highlight that, let's actually replace this div here with a track component. So let's import the track component. Which we have not defined yet. And instead of rendering this div, let's render the track component like this. And let's pass it, let's say song equals the song. So we're going to take that song object and we're going to pass it to this track as its core data, its prop. Now if I save this, we're going to have an error because I don't have anything in the track file yet. So if we go back to, we can see here there's nothing here, right? We'll have error. Element type is invalid. Expected a string or class function, but got object. You will see this error a lot. At least I get it a lot because I forget to export my components. I do this all the time. So if you get this error, don't freak out. It happens all the time. Now, let's fix that error by actually creating a track component. So let's export default function track, and let's return a div with the class name equals, what do we want to call it? Track or song. Let's call it song. And let's do the same thing. We'll just say, oh, we need to make sure we get the props. And then let's render the props.song.name. Now, when I save this, hopefully that should fix my problem. It didn't. Why not? What did I mess up here? Track song song. Okay. Oh, because it's not called name, it's called song name, huh? There you go. And so that's the other error you'll see a lot, is if you don't access the right attribute, this was undefined. And so we saw nothing render the screen because that was undefined. Now, I didn't make that error on purpose. I made that on accident. But again, this happens all the time. So don't freak out if you see that error here. Now, once I have this, I want to start styling this and adding the rest of the data to the track. But we're now seeing the benefit to using a component-based architecture, is that we can define components that handle individual entities in our HTML, and then we can render them like so. There is one thing to point out here. If we inspect this, you'll see an error in the console. It'll say each child in a list should have a unique key prop. And what that is saying is right here, this track, we're mapping over this list of tracks, but React can't tell which one is which unless we give it a unique identifier. We call that unique identifier a key. And so I have one here called IDX, but I can use the song.title name also. So anything that's unique about each one, we could say key equals song.song_name. And if we save this, we'll see, and we refresh, we see that that error is no longer there. And so this is how we can iterate over data, pass props, and use it to render more components. In the next video, we're going to start talking about how we can, let's first go ahead and style that track component so it looks a lot nicer, and then we'll move on to more advanced stuff.